Oh, and good evening. It's December 30th, 2025, and we're continuing our discussion collection in Outside the Class series. This series starts with Bible Project, and it covers the entire TaNaK, also known as the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. Those source videos are available for your review. They're all on TheDustyFeet.com in the Outside the Class section. The intent of Outside the Class, if you listen to that in-class lecture first, those are those short overview videos. We'll expand the conversation, but we try to keep these to about 15 minutes. Make them easy to catch up on. So we're on a quest, scroll by scroll, book by book, a journey through this collection, but maybe with a fun and different twist. Our hope with the Dusty Feet is to foster discussion and to help build and support communities. If you're not already connected to a community or just want to share and interact, this community has 4 primary ways to interact. 1. TheDustyFeet.com. That's our primary place to find everything. You are always free to comment. 2. Substack. Link is in the description below. It's designed around the written and spoken text. It's a place to connect to ourselves and others. 3. Facebook @TheDustyFeet. These videos and other videos are also available for comment and discussion. 4. And as always, you're welcome to send an email to bob@TheDustyFeet.com. These places, they will be moderated and guidelines will be set to ensure healthy, safe discussion. And as always on The Dusty Feet, this is a place where we can safely explore the endless ways of God and the interconnection of His creation. Belief understandings may be challenged, divine misunderstandings may exist, and traditional teachings might falter as we pursue connection, context, and community with God and each other here in an environment of grace and love. Oh, and before we forget, if you do find these kinds of podcasts useful, please, that is when you click that subscribe button. The reminders, they're just there to help you. But also, if you think these might be useful to others, that is when you click that like button, because that is how YouTube chooses to share these to more people if they wish. So in this series, we're going to cover the entire TaNaK, right? The Old Testament. We're going to do it in the original order of the Hebrew Scriptures. Remember, the videos we're going to discuss, they're always just the tip of an iceberg. They're part of a learning series I highly recommend, and of course, all of them can be found on the Bible Project's website. Link to that is in the description. Because we're going to ask many questions about all kinds of things. The answers, well, we'll see. Samuel, a second scroll, this is our part 7. So this little section in chapter 6, it's towards the end. It's interesting because for some reason, looking at it this time, I guess it's because of the way we started to look at this scroll. We've really pay attention to what's inside. We put sandals on when we need to make it more personal. So for full disclosure, I've been married twice. First time for shy of 20 years and currently for 22 plus. And there have been some not so good discussions during those time frames. Fortunately for me, they just didn't make the biblical text. But sometimes when we hear others in a contentious discussion or just an uncomfortable discussion, we're only hearing the moment that's happening, right? The vast majority of us, we have no idea what it's about. We don't know what led to that moment. Some people, they could say that they're aware of the couple's issues, but they're still only little pieces of the puzzle. And at times, I think we need to remember that, even in Scripture, as challenging as that can be for us. So we're back in the second scroll. We're at the end of chapter 6, and David's approaching Jerusalem. And Michal, right, his first wife, she watches him approach. So to remember the original story with Michal, it's a short but intense period of time when she was his wife. And then, for lack of a better term, I want to use the term active wife versus passive wife. And this is what I mean, is that she was there and then she wasn't. Okay? But it's not through the fault of his own. David was on the run. Michal was with her dad, Saul, and Saul's only doing what he's due to protect her. At least the way Saul thought that should be happening. And in that time, while David's running around, because this is a bit of, to be honest, it's reading between the lines that Michal could be going, David's gone. David's running out and about. Maybe there's a chance that Dad's going to kill him. So Michal, she gets married to another man. We've been talking about this. And after Saul's killed, one of David's requests is that he gets his first wife back. Yeah. They literally pull her from her new house. They bring her to David, her husband, trailing behind and sobbing. And they tell him, stop. Go home. So she's taken to him. She's reunited with David. And I believe we're at a point where we might need to put on some sandals. Look at the story a little more closely and realize she's probably not happy. I'm not sure what's going on in David's mind. Maybe is Michal a possession of his? Does he view her as that? Does he view her as, she's my wife because I married her back then? Does he have an idyllic view of her? Because whatever's going on in David's mind with her, and it's about her, but it appears by looking at the text that she doesn't appear to feel the same way towards him. When you take the time to read the story, and you've been alive long enough to be around people that have strained relationships for a multitude of reasons, things do happen, right? For instance, in my 20 years in the military, right, it gave me many scenarios of stressed and strained relationships with military spouses. Being on deployment, being TDY, different jobs requiring different levels of detachment. What might have been idyllic relationship just goes awry. So I think it's interesting when we read this passage and the interaction between David and Michal. It may have been odd to say, but I actually have sympathy for both, right? I think it gets a bit uncomfortable, yet for me, it's an honest view of looking at them, knowing how the story's played out before, and let's be honest, it's still just a minute amount of information we have with remarkably few details. It's us who fills in the blanks, right? We watch as this picture develops. Yeah. So we get to 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 16. As the ark of Yahweh came into the city of David, Michal, daughter of Saul, looked out the window, saw King David leaping and dancing before Yahweh, and she despised him in her heart. They brought in the ark of Yahweh, set it in its place inside the tent. David had pitched for it, and David offered burnt offerings and offerings of well-being before Yahweh. When David had finished offering the burnt offerings and the offerings of well-being, he blessed the people in the name of Yahweh. And then he distributed food among all the people, the whole multitude of Israel, both men and women, to each a cake of bread, a portion of meat, a cake of raisins. Then all the people, they went back to their homes. And David returned to bless his household, but Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, "How the king of Israel honored himself today, uncovering himself today before the eyes of his servant maids, as any vulgar fellow might shamelessly uncover himself." David said to Michal, "It was before Yahweh who chose me in place of your father and all of his household to appoint me as prince over Israel, the people of Yahweh, and I dance before Yahweh. I will make myself yet more contemptible than this, and I will be humbled in my own eyes. But the maids of whom you've spoken, by them I shall be held in honor." And Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child till the day of her death. I'd say it's a bit of an uncomfortable conversation. A couple of things that stood out to me. One, when it refers to Michal in this particular text, it doesn't call her David's wife, even David's first wife. It refers to her as the daughter of Saul, which seems a bit distancing as if the text is trying to make this distance between the two. And then to pour salt on a wound, add fuel to the fire, David says, well, God picked me over your dad. I don't know if you've ever paused and listened to it the way I just said, but still, it hit me that it could have been phrased differently. To be fair, it's not a live capture conversation. We don't know the exact words used, but the text inference suggests argumentative conversation. But another part of the thing that stood out to me at the end is, regardless of how you view the conversation, I had to pause, still look, and at the end, David said something interesting. I don't know if it's self-fulfilling or if it just depends on how you read it, because, again, it's always only a backwards view, but in verse 22, I think what he says gives us an ominous thought, at least looking back, looking forward. I will make myself yet more contemptible than this, and will be humbled in my own eyes. But it appears at the end, as if, at least by inference, we view God's particular take with this last verse in that chapter, and Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child to the day of her death. Either no visits from David or a barren womb from God. Might give you more to ponder. Next week, we're going to be in chapter 7. We're introduced to our next prophet, Nathan, with not much fanfare or intro, right? He just appears in the scene, and then he passes a word that rather quickly gets overturned by God. So thanks you're with us tonight on another episode of Outside the Class with the second scroll of Samuel, on the Dusty Feet.